Welcome back to War Thunder. Welcome to Duck Dogs number 40 with the title My German Personal Whining Campaign. Thank you for the suggestion from one of my more saltier subscribers or somebody that just bumped into my video to just complain about me, and I think that's quite appropriate. So today we will talk about a lot of things, and one being about the P51. In all its modifications. From the D series, I play currently the P51 D30 in two gameplays. First against the Russians, where I have an amazing showcase of what the P51 can do, especially with teamwork, and in the second one against the Germans, where it also went pretty well. I didn't get the most kills, but that's not the topic really if you are looking for amazing team gameplay. And I wanted to talk about the questions from last Duck Talks. I wanted to talk about the P51H, the APDS DS suggestion, APHEDS suggestion that I made for the mouse and what happened to that, the HeatFS on the M47 on the dev server in general, the buffs to the BF109s, and certain problems that I just have with my current state of my PC and so on. So let's begin with the questions from last Duck Talks. God, it's difficult to speak really. Zero Cookie Cake, or Carnipex as he named himself. Napalm, do you think once CAS is nerfed, Germany will be getting more tank destroyers such as the Jagdpanzer E100 or the Crocodile and such to deal with the power creep of other nations, and maybe even for Russia? Japan too, as Britain and America in my opinion are overperforming and dominate tank RB. So before I answer the question, let's talk about the fact that this comment was made before we saw what was on the dev server. And CAS gets, one aspect of CAS gets nerfed or brought back into line with normal game mechanics, and those are the rockets. But big rockets still can hurt. If rockets still hit specific parts, they still can one-shot the tank. And there are still a lot of vehicles that can be destroyed by by cannon fire, by machine gun fire. Bombs are still lethal, big ones, and so you still can spot enemies that try to flank with machine gun fire, so your team is aware of where they are. So CAS overall doesn't get nerfed, but the insane spam of RP3s and HVRs that one-shotted King Tigers and even the Maus with a direct hit, regardless of where they hit, I think that's getting nerfed, so to speak, and I think it's a good change. Then about tank destroyers such as the Jagdpanzer E100 or the Crocodile, or if that is the same, or the tanks that you see in World of Tanks are made up. I had not a look too deep into it. I just know that in World of Tanks there is a Jagdpanzer auf E100 with a 17cm gun. I would love to see that in the game, especially when we have a look at the vehicles that are now coming in, and you can bump it at higher battle ratings. I wouldn't mind, because it's a made-up vehicle, but then you would throw historically accuracy completely out of the window when it comes to suggested vehicles or made-up vehicles or pure blueprints. You know, if some engineer was bored and just drawed such a vehicle, and somebody digged out that drawing. However, we already have two vehicles that are more or less made up. The Panther 2 with the 88 and the 10.5cm Tiger 2. Incidentally, both are German. But then, you know, Germany has its problems, and it's undeniable. And I agree, Britain and America are way too strong throughout the battle ratings currently. They have stabilizers, APDS, you know, from rank 3 to rank 4 in Britain, and then also American with all their very fast tanks. It's something that I complained a lot about, and I agree to that, but it's not like something slow like the Jagdpanzer E100 would help that, to be honest. Yeah, there's that. Then the next question comes from Thanos. Do I have a Discord? The answer is not really. I don't use it. I answered that question a while ago. I am a very high rank in a Discord named the Gentleman's Hanger, but I don't use it. Most of the time when I am on Discord, you will find me in Discords of the Orange Doom, Micro's Boom, Many Miles Away, or the Beehive. There is that. Then Yana Abranian asks, do I like waffles? The answer is no, except Luftwaffles. Then MBN Dino asks, if I have ever considered streaming. The answer is yes, I have. There are a few problems. One, my PC needs a total overhaul. Second of all, I have no real time. I can't give you a schedule. And if I want to begin streaming, I want to do it properly. Like not a few streams in a month and people subscribe to me, throw money at me, whatever, because they think it will be great. And then, you know, the next time I stream, it will be at a completely different time, a few weeks afterwards. So I don't want to betray people in terms of that. And the most important fact is, my internet is not up to the task of streaming. Like, the raw stats of my internet connection are not good enough. So that is probably the main focus of my problematic situation. So now let's get into the topic of me complaining about stuff. I complain about things because I play the game for a very long time. It's now over 4.5 years. It's not nearly 4.5 years me playing the game on a very regular basis, nearly daily basis. And when you are playing a game for such a long time, throughout all the nations, all the tiers, in arcade, in realistic battles, a few battles also in simulator, in tanks and planes, then you come across certain issues. And even if I don't have to play for years to come across certain problems, God, look at the background footage, then I think, you know, complaining is a legit way of pointing out issues. And I don't waste my time on the forums. When I say waste time, then I see that many more people doing way better reporting stuff than I could ever do, with much more enthusiasm, with much more time possible, because I can't, you know, pick up all the data and make a forum thread or a post or whatever and still make YouTube. And, you know, YouTube educating the community, doing tank reviews is something that I really like. So I don't have enough time because I don't get any money from that. That brings me to the next part. And I have noticed this lately since I have gone over 4,000 subscribers. There is a bunch of very vocal, very loud people that, how to say it? Well, regardless of what I do, they try to complain about me, or they do. When I say something is very bad, then the comments arise like, get good, shut up, what are you even talking about, you know, you're a bad player, oh my god, you're a Wehraboo, and so on. When I say something is good, then obviously I'm immediately in the pocket of Gaijin, which is absolutely not true. I try to work together with them as good as I can, but so far it's just, you know, me asking for stuff to get for my account. I have not received a single cent of any currency so far from Gaijin. I'm, you know, like somebody, if you look at Wargaming, they have this content creator program. I'm part of the Gaijin partnership program, and it's to a certain degree very similar when it comes to what you receive from the company. You receive something in game, but nothing else. And I was not invited to Gamescom. Oh God, I wouldn't have not even gone there, even if they invited me, because I'm still a very small YouTuber. I'm not that important. However, I'm amazed of what I actually get for my channel size. Again, thank you Gaijin for doing this, but please fix stuff like the i6. This is my stuff that I, you know, try to come along with my channel to say, okay, this is a problem, here is the footage, I played against this tank, had this problem, I played with this tank and I had this problem, yada yada yada. I show the issues that I'm talking about in numerous videos from different perspectives. If you then complain about that and say very helpful things like, oh, just get good, that doesn't help anybody. You have to explain how. And I always try to provide you with information of what you can do. And it doesn't help me in a single way if somebody says, well, the IS-6 is no problem in a down tier against Germans because, you know, there are airplanes that can bomb and rocket it. Yeah, problem is you don't get into aircraft. Or it doesn't help me if somebody says, well, the IS-6 is easy food for the Centurion Mark 10. Yeah, that doesn't help me if I am in a T-29 on open field, you know, and the IS-6 is angling and just denying me the easy shot in the cupola that would probably just get absorbed by the optics and stuff like that. And those issues then lead to other subscribers make videos that are, look, you have to shoot the cupola, you're all stupid, you just have to try to shot trap it, you just have to try to hit the cupola, oh my god, play British and everything's alright. It takes time to research that stuff. Many vehicles have a big problem with the stock grind, which I always point out. And I always point out if a vehicle, in my tank reviews, has no problems or not too many problems with the stock grind. That then brings me to the things like the P51H. And now let's make a turnaround in the usual way that it works. Normally, Gaijin announces something, certain YouTubers come across this announcement, go on the dev server, and then show gameplay of this vehicle and say, oh my god, it's so good, hype, hype, hype. I knew that there is something like the P51, I knew that it was requested, but you know, the P51H was requested like numerous other vehicles were requested. And the thing is, what is so good about the P51 that other planes can't do? And hype me, okay? Now it's my subscriber base that I want to hype me about the P51H. Okay, what's so good about it? Let me know in the comment section. Then there was the suggestion of mine about the APHEDS for the German 128mm featured on the Maus, the 100, and also the Jagdtiger. The funny thing was, I didn't come up with that myself. Many people just sent me links, people that I trust showed me that information, and so I thought, okay, it looks solid, it makes sense from a balancing point of view, it makes sense, because, you know, it's just ridiculous that the Maus has a lot of problems of dealing with Soviet medium tanks of lower battle ratings, or, you know, gets just ruffle stomped by British medium tanks with their gun stabilized APDS rounds that have no problem going through the turret front anyways, because the Maus has no stabilizer, one of the longest reloads, is overall not very maneuverable, and sees up tiers on a regular basis where it can't do much. Just 1 out of 5 gameplays is acceptable for in terms of income or reward or game impact. That's just something that I wanted to point out. And you can't, you know, give the Maus a 30 horsepower to ton ratio with a, I don't know, 5, 6, 7,000 horsepower engine. You can't give it a turret like in World of Tanks. I know that. And you also can't give it a lower battle rating, because then would again lead to power creep, which is the overall problem of War Thunder. And so I thought, okay, the APDS or the APHEDS would be an easy solution. People hated me on that, and then somebody sent me a link. I looked at it, it was a Reddit post, I guess, don't quite remember, and somebody picked apart my argumentation. It was not specifically for me, I guess also many miles away was targeted with that, so certain War Thunder related YouTubers it was named, I guess, and he picked apart that stuff. And I was, okay, if that is wrong, well, so be it, so we don't get an APHETS. But it was the lining in between the argumentation, the line between the lines, that really was a bit strange. Because this person clearly had no interest whatsoever of buffing the mouse in any way, shape or form, or the Germans overall. So this person is one part of the community that just hates on the Germans. Let me explain that. There are Wehraboos, and the definition of a Wehraboo is that he believes in German superiority in terms of technique and the superiority of the German war machine of the Second World War, and just disrespecting facts. And the same goes then also for the Russians and for the Japanese and for the British and the Americans and the Italians and hell, even the French and the Belgians and whatever. You always have this kind of group for every country. But then when it comes to when the T-29 came out, okay, and people were saying, well, it's too strong because it was clearly bugged with the lower plate, third front, repair times, and the power of the APHE. Then, you know, they didn't accept any criticism and called everybody a Wehraboo. But then again, when the IS-6 came around, those people were crying out loud that the IS-6 is overpowered, while they still had a chance to face it in their T-29s, while the King Tiger was then ruffle-stomped on hard again. And then when German people complained, they called, which was pretty funny, the Russians overpowered, but the Germans were just Wehraboos, and they should learn to play. So it's really a big mess, and, you know... It just happened in such a way after I got 4,000 subscribers. I knew this would come once. I didn't expect it to be, you know, in that format like that as soon as I would hit 4,000 subscribers. It's not out of control, but I really realized it. Then let's talk about the dev server, and first of all I want to apologize for the misinformation about the German upcoming premium medium tank, the M47 Pattern 2, and I said it doesn't have a HeatFS shell. Well, a little explanation, not an apology because it happened and it was a fault of mine, but an explanation why this happened. I got short notice that the dev server is up, I had to download it, and I did not have the time for the full client to download it, and I was very curious what is there. I didn't know how much time I have to look at the dev server and to gather footage of it. So I jumped on it before the full client was downloaded. You can do it on the dev server. And so the new tanks and the new planes were not there with full models. Also, while I was downloading them the second half after I restarted the client, there was another update on top of the new dev server, and that fixed certain issues like the M47 not having a HeatFS shell, because I clearly looked at it. The American one still had it. The German new one didn't have it, and I wrote down that as a a line on my, or a sentence in my script or semi-script. And I just noticed that. I also said that, you know, everything is subject to change. It can change, it will change, and so on. I also got criticized for that, by the way, but you know. So when I looked at it, the M47 didn't have this HeatFS shell, the German premium one. I wrote it down. When I restarted the client, suddenly I had it, but I just didn't look at it carefully enough and I overlooked it. I'm sorry about this, but this is the reason why it happened at all. And the same goes for the German Bf109 flight models. Now I got criticized for being in Gaijin's pocket and, you know, being an absolute Wehraboo. I always criticized how Bf109s fly. Not so much the E-series, as I think they are pretty okay, especially the E4 and E7 are powerful. They are really powerful, I love to fly them, but they are not overpowered, because a Spitfire in a dogfight will still own you. And so you have to use your energy advantage, your climb rate and so on, and I'm okay with that, okay? If a vehicle has a distinct advantage, I can make use of that. If a vehicle has weakness, I want to exploit it. I'm always against it if a vehicle doesn't have a weakness or is completely underwhelming. That is something that I don't like, okay? So when I test flew the K4, I was like, whoa, I didn't remember that plane to fly that, like that, you know. And the one on my account here is fully upgraded, and it wobbled around. It was nearly uncontrollable for me. I don't know if it's something in the setting or it's really the new flight model. The flight model itself seemed to be not that much different. It seems a bit smoother overall, but the biggest problem that I always had with BF-199 from the G variant and the K4 onwards was that they were really strangled by the instructor. They were too realistic in comparison to, I'm not saying not too realistic, but they had a different quality of the flight model. It's really, really difficult for me to explain, but it wobbled around. Suddenly the rudder blocked despite being not hit. You were undamaged. When you had a altitude advantage and the Spitfire zoom climbed you, you still got wrecked and owned. So even though a Spitfire, or hell, even a Bearcat, beer can, whatever you want to call it, hell, even P-51 suddenly had power output that the K4 didn't have, even with an altitude advantage. And then, you know, you also have the problem with the weaponry. So when I test flew it, I was just blown away how direct the handling is, and that might just offer me the opportunity to finally enjoy those planes. The same goes for the Focke-Wulfs, which I really hope gets also a flight model overhaul. They might have a very realistic flight model, probably the most realistic flight models that there are in War Thunder. I don't know. The problem is the overall handling. If it comes to the actual combat, you can't make use of those theoretical advantages, and I want that to be changed. If it has the meta to be changed is one thing, but if it's obvious that the instructor strangles the entire flight model, you know, for certain reasons, then you have to change, because other nations' aircraft didn't have that problem. And this is why I love the Italian and the Japanese aircraft so much, because they can, with them I can wipe the floor with the Spitfires to a certain degree, you know. They might be overpowered as well, but you know, they are fighting other overpowered vehicles, so you're fighting fire with fire, and that's a guilty pleasure of mine that I do so. But I made it clear in my videos that that is the case and that I don't like that. So I hope you see where I was going. I hope now you know where those mistakes came from and why it happened. And I apologize for that. But again, it doesn't need to be any kind of me trying to spread bullshit. And you know, what I was accused of was pretty funny. Just, you know, think about it and let it sink in for a moment and make YouTube for yourself, and you can see how fast those changes come up, how fast the dev server can change. So yeah, overall I also had I was just overwhelmed of what I saw on the dev server. Immediately there were rank 5 premium vehicles. Immediately we saw the rank 6 vehicles being at a battle rating of 8.3. I agree that this battle rating probably isn't the last one, but it was not 8.7, it was not 9.0, it was not 10.0, it was 8.3, so the highest battle rating. We also didn't see any vehicles to be swapped to tier 6 from rank 5 as it was announced, and that also made me worrying, because nobody guarantees me that this will change from this dev server iteration to the live server. And believe me, I have seen enough over the years to be, you know, very careful when it comes to things like that. Very careful. I've seen enough. I love the game called War Thunder, but I'm not so sure about Gaijin when it comes to making certain things, certain decisions, and I just wanted to point that out. And I think the Duck Talks is a very good place for doing this. So to summarize, whatever point of view I go for, some parts of the community complain about it and I can't do it right. If I say something is great, I'm in the pockets of Gaijin. If say something is not right, I'm a Wehraboo, I should get good whatsoever, and I get insulted anyway. The next thing is I have problems with my recording. So on the dev server, for example, I had to do it in one go. I had to record it indirectly with post commentary, so to speak, on it while I was recording. A strange story, but my PC needs a complete overhaul. Then I care about the game, so I complain about things that are not alright because I want them to get fixed. I don't want to, you know, screw Gaijin over with that. It's their job to make the game right, and mine to showcase how awesome it is. But if something is not awesome, I show it as well, because I'm not somebody that holds back information or something. Whenever you hear something from me, it's my true honest opinion to my best knowledge. So, that's it for me today. I hope you enjoyed the video. Please give it a like if you did. Subscribe if you want to see more. Don't forget to hype me about your awesome P51 that you all suggested. And we will see each other on the battlefields and in the skies of War Thunder.